I have a secret. I'm a lifelong learner. I keep my outplay on and keep the motor running continuously. Now, how many of us go through life afraid of failure? We're so scared of making mistakes that we hold ourselves back. And you know what's worse? We instill this in our children. We make them afraid to try things in case they make a mistake. We see exams as an opportunity to fail or pass. And there's no midsections. Now, of course, exams are important, but they're not the be-all and end-all. They're a test to move us on in our academic careers or in our professional careers. And yeah, it's great when you do really, really well. And it can feel terrible when you don't. But both of them, whether you fail or succeed, can help you to elevate your knowledge, to develop your resilience, and so better prepare you for what you want to create in your life. Quite often, I have parents who will say, oh, my child is really bad at this, or they failed their exam. And then when I ask them, well, what did they get? And they say, oh, they got 23 out of 25. I'm flabbergasted and shocked. How is that a fail? And they'll say, well, they did better last time, or another kid in their class did better. Well, these are probably true, but that's by no means a fail. So my question is, what meaning are you attaching to the word fail? But it's still, why not ask your child, what meanings do they attach to the word fail? And it's interesting if we look at the etymology of this word. If we go back, actually, fail means to stumble, to fall. In modern day, we have now made it so catastrophic that failure seems like death. And this is causing many adults and children to hold themselves back, and so they don't achieve the greatness that they can. So how can we move from a failure mindset to a success mindset? Well, it's how we look at fail, what it is to fail. True failure is when we give up. If we keep trying, then we will succeed. Or we'll find another way to get us to where we need. And we know this from lots of examples. I personally can attest to this. I loved learning. I was always reading. I loved watching documentaries. But again, I came from a disadvantaged background. And my parents were not necessarily the most educated in terms of the traditional system. I went to a school that was deprived. And when I was there, some of you who've read my blogs or seen previous videos will know that I was labelled slow in math. And I kept that as a story. And as a result, I would often fail my math exams. But something shifted. And do you know what that was? I stopped treating it like the be-all and end-all. I thought, do you know what? I am going to get this. That was the first thing I told myself. I am going to succeed. And the second thing, I love video games. I love playing them. And so I set this up as a game in my head. I was like, do you know what? I'm going to beat the examiner. And I'm going to do my best. I'm going to prepare for the exam. And guess what? If I fail, I'll redo it. I'll redo it until I succeed. And as a result of that, I did phenomenally well in my GCSEs, phenomenally well in my A-levels, and then was able to go to a Russell Brick University. Red Brick University. I went to the University of Nottingham and then travelled the world. Had I kept the failure mindset, it would never have happened. But I allowed a playfulness to be there and also a dedication. And so that way my parents never had to tell me to study. My teachers didn't. I didn't really like math. I still don't. I mean, actually, that's not true. I do enjoy it. I love the problem solving of it. But anyway, because of the shift in mindset, it set me up to do well. It set me up for success and allowed for creativity and playfulness. And I found myself just looking at different sites, looking at different books, things that I would never have done previously. And fantastically, if we look around us, lots of people who are innovators, who are changing the world, actually embrace failure. Perhaps one of the most, best known examples is Thomas Edison. Thomas Edison technically began failing from a young age. He was sent home with a letter, and his mother read it. Now, she had an option, she had a choice in that moment to either berate her son when she read this note, to shame him, or to set him up for success. And that's what she did. The note read, "Your child is too unintelligent." I'm paraphrasing here, but the note read, "You're too unintelligent. Your son is too unintelligent. He will never succeed, and therefore he's expelled." Can you imagine if you told that to a child, a little boy, or even to a little girl, to anyone? Even as an adult, that would be crushing and devastating. Then, more to the point, they were saying they had given up on him, and implying that the mother should equally give up on him because he'll be nothing. Now, she could have said, "You're a failure. You've let me down. You've let yourself down." But she didn't. She said, "Your school have said you're so intelligent that they can't cater for you. So you should be best educated at home." And that's exactly what she did. And she empowered her son through positivity and praise. And then Thomas Edison, actually one of the best known scientists of the 20th century, failed many times. When asked about how he developed the light bulb and all his failures, he said, "No, I just discovered 99 ways of not creating a light bulb." What a truly remarkable and refreshing way to look at failure, is this discovery. And in modern times, we can pick out examples all the time. For example, Jack Ma from China, the co-founder of Alibaba, a billionaire. He does a lot of work for charity. In fact, he's trying to come up with a cure for COVID-19 by funding scientists around the world. And he's trying very hard to help to create a unity amongst different countries, different nations. He's doing outstanding work. So if you've not heard of him, please go and check him out. He's truly remarkable. And guess what? He started off failing. Primary school, he failed. Middle school, he failed. He failed his entry exam into university 3 times. He was rejected by Harvard University 10 times. He became an English teacher. And guess what? Unsurprisingly, he was fantastic at his job. Very well respected, very well loved. And why is that? Because he had a thirst and passion for learning that only comes when you allow yourself to fail. Because there in that moment, you have a choice to keep going or to stop. And he kept going. And he then developed Alibaba, a prolific online business that rivals, I would say, Amazon. And now he's a billionaire. He's highly successful if you look at it in terms of that. And look at his values as well that he's bringing to the world. Another example is a phenomenal speaker, Les Brown. If you've not watched any of his speeches, please go onto YouTube and have a look. Again, born in, I think, a warehouse. He was abandoned and adopted, and he was called retarded. That's what his label was. Thankfully, he had a teacher who said to him that nobody can define who you are, only yourself. And again, I'm paraphrasing, but along those lines. And the reason for that is because Les Brown had "I'm a failure," so he didn't see any point in trying. He's a twin, and his twin was considered bright, intelligent, and he was very well liked. And so he thought, well, what's the point? I can't compete. But after those words from that teacher, Les Brown embarked on getting an education, and he did. He graduated from high school. He then went to work for a radio station and was rejected. But he kept going in time and time again until the owner said, "Okay, you can come in as a tea boy." And he started to make tea. He started to get to know people. And he was so well prepared because it was his passion. He was driven. He didn't let failure stand in his way. And so when the opportunity arose, when one of the radio hosts was ill, he was there on hand. And reluctantly, they said yes, and he did an amazing job. And the rest is history. He's one of the world's greatest speakers. So if we look at what these people, these individuals all have in common, well, it's not necessarily that they're the brightest or that they're most charismatic or that they have, the wealth and connections. Not at all. In fact, if you look at their history, their background, they all started from somewhere a place where you would say actually it breeds more failure and dissatisfaction. It's because they had a mindset where failure didn't have the catastrophic meaning that we attach to it now. They took it as a stumble, a fall, and they used it to prop themselves up and to keep going. They learnt the lessons, and surely that's what failure is for, to teach us. Now I get it, when we're working with our children, we may feel, well, actually concerned that they won't get into the university of their choice. Now, if you look at the blog and go on to the websites there, you will see that Oxford, Cambridge, Russell groups such as Loughborough, the University of Nottingham, Birmingham University, Warwick University, Durham University, all of them will accept a resit. Now, they're very competitive, as they say, and they may ask questions, but they do accept them. So if these prestigious schools can accept it, why can't we as parents or as educators accept it? And if we can, and we can instill that into our children, then they will go on to not just survive a failure, but thrive in it. And that's exactly what we want, so that they can be lightened up, loosened, and they will be able and willing to take risks. Doctors are people who we highly regard. Do you know that actually that many of them fail their last exam? I think the percentage of the pass rate is something like 10 to 15% to begin with the first time round. Can you imagine how much stress, anxiety, and pressure that's put on them? And yet, a lot of them say through that failure, it enables them to develop a greater compassion for their patients and for their peers, their colleagues, because they know the rigors that they've had to go through to get that qualification. In fact, it allows them to better understand themselves, how they handle pressure. It enables them to develop creative thinking, to time manage, which is all really useful skills for the job at hand. So actually, in a way, this exam is designed for them to fail, so that they are kept back effectively, so that they can mature. So why is this applicable to private, home education or to schooling? And it's because of the amount of pressure we put on. A lot of time, especially now, when students are preparing for the 7+, the 11+, the 13+, their GCSEs, their A-levels, perhaps a university end-of-year exam, we can think of failure as the be-all and end-all. And it doesn't have to be. We can have another shot at it. And if not, there are ways around it. Because if it's your goal and it's your dream, you will succeed. But it has to come from you. And so the greatest gift we can give our children when we're helping them with their education is to let them know it's okay to fail, but it's not okay to give up. And and I think that's the key defining factor. And it's interesting, I worked with a young man who I'm very proud of. And when I started working with him, he was 12. And he kept telling me he had failed his 11+ examination. That's all he kept saying. He was 1 mark off. And it clearly traumatized him. He lacked the maturity and resilience. And as a result, he was not achieving the best. In fact, he would hold himself back by not studying well, by messing around slightly. And these were all symptoms of his fear of the failure. So what I would do was I would engage with him in a fun way. I made learning really fun and enjoyable. When he said he didn't know something, I was like, brilliant, great, you get to learn something. How lucky are you? I got him to teach me things that he was interested in. He was quite good at the piano, and he taught me that, a few notes on that, a few basic songs. He was interested in games. He taught me how to play certain games. And by doing that, I empowered him. He saw that I was okay failing and looking, silly. And it was okay. And through that process, he fell in love with learning again. And he then sat his 13 plus exam and he passed with flying colours. And one of the things I kept telling him was treat it like a game. It's your chance to show off. And he came out of the exam and he said he enjoyed it. He had a big smile on his face. And so it didn't matter whether he passed or failed, because he actually enjoyed the experience. He enjoyed being there with the other boys. And so when he got the pass, it was phenomenal for his confidence, his self-esteem, but he knew that it wasn't the be-all and end-all. And actually, by having this lightness, it enabled him to take risks and play full out in the exam rather than holding back, perhaps being nervous and being cautious. It allowed him to engage fully in the exam. So the key way in which we can move from a failure mindset to a successful mindset is, remember, we're all lifelong learners, and it's okay sometimes to fail. We're all going through life with a learner plate on. And if we can remind and instill that in our children, the sense of elation and passion that they will get in their learning will be so contagious, and they will play full out. I would love to hear your comments, your feedback, your insights. So please feel free to leave them, below. And I hope that you enjoy this video, and I hope it's useful as well. And as I say, please get in touch. It'd be great to hear from you. And remember, failure isn't the end. It's only when you choose to give up that it is. Bye for now.